Today, Dave, we're going to be going over lazy eights, and um, the reason why we practice lazy eights is we go out there to test our skills of planning, coordination, and orientation. This is a outside visual reference maneuver, so we're going to be choosing reference points. When we go out into the practice area, we'll be looking for a 45-degree point, a 90-degree point, and a 180-degree point. And so we're going to be flying symmetrical half circles. And when we're doing this, there's really three parts of our half circle here. We've got the 45, the 90, and the 135, and then coming back around to the 180. So when we get up into the practice area, there's going to be a few things that we're going to do. A few things to note. So what's going to be our configuration? We're going to have no flaps. We're going to be flying at 90 knots. To get 90 knots, we're going to be at about 2,200 RPM. And we're going to select the altitude of 4,500. We need to complete this maneuver at no lower than 1,500 AGL. We also want to note when we're coming in, so we've set up, we want to note what our heading and our altitude is when we're coming in. And then when we come in to fly this maneuver, Dave, we've got our three segments here. So each segment consists of changing bank and changing pitch continuously throughout the whole maneuver. So we've got our plane here. We're at our 45-degree point. We're at 15 degrees of bank. We're going to continue our bank from 15 degrees to 30 degrees, so just a little bit more bank. And remember, we were at our maximum pitch up attitude here at 45 degrees. And so what we want to do is from 45 to 90, we're going to relax the back pressure just a little bit so that when we come through at the 90-degree point, we're at 30 degrees of bank and our nose is level with the horizon. So when we get to our 90-degree point, nose is level with the horizon, we're at 30 degrees of bank. And now at this point, we should be 5 to 10 knots above our stall speed. So in this airplane, we should be right around 60 knots. So as we continue our turn from our 90 to our 135, and when we get to our 90, we're going to say 90 degrees. As we continue the turn, so now we're going to have decreasing bank and decreasing pitch. At this point, we're going to be at 30 degrees. We're going to roll. We're going to slowly start rolling out our bank, and we're going to let the nose slice through the horizon at the 90-degree point. So we're slicing through the horizon. And we're letting the back pressure out, so we're letting that nose come down until we get to our 135-degree point, at which point we should be at 15 degrees bank, so we're continually letting out bank. And at the 135-degree point, that'll be our maximum pitch down attitude. So now at our 135 point, we're going to say 135. We're going to be decreasing our bank slowly, coming out from 15 to 0 degrees bank here. And we're also going, at this point, we're going to increase our pitch. So just gradually increase our back pressure there, increasing the pitch just a little bit, so that when we come through at our 180-degree point, we'll have a reference point out off our wing. When we come through our 180-degree point, we want to be plus or minus 10 knots at that point of our entry speed of 90. And plus or minus 10 degrees on the heading. So as we continue on, so it's symmetrical. So as we continue through, so we've got our wings level here, and just the way we did it on the first side, we're going to do on the back side. So we've got our reference points. We're going to come through our 180-degree point. We're going to pitch up and a little bit of bank. Pitch up and a little bit of bank. Pitch up and a little bit of bank. So when we get to our 45-degree point, we'll have 15 degrees of bank. and we'll have our maximum pitch up attitude. And as we come through from our 45 to our 90, we're going to let go of some of that back pressure on the yoke. We're going to continue to bleed off our airspeed until we get to that 90-degree point. And when we get there, our nose should be level with the horizon, 5 to 10 knots above our stall speed. And at that point, we'll be at our maximum bank angle there of 30 degrees. And we'll call out our 90-degree point, and we'll continue on to our 135. We're going to slowly let out the bank there. We're also going to let the nose down. So when we get to, I say let the nose down, this will be our most aggressive pitch down during this maneuver. And so when we get to our 135-degree point, we're still continuing to let out our bank, and we'll be at our maximum pitch down attitude at 135, at which point we'll call out 135. We continue around to our 180, and as we continue around, we continue to let out that bank, and we're going to go ahead and bring the nose up. We're going to gradually pull back on the yoke, getting ourselves back to our 180-degree point, at which, this is where I made a little bit of a mistake. So don't worry about the heading here. We do want to be on altitude when we come through our 180-degree point here, plus or minus 100 feet. And when we come back and we're finishing out this maneuver, we want to be plus or minus 10 degrees on the heading, plus or minus 100 feet from our starting altitude, and plus or minus 10 knots from our starting entry speed. Okay, so now that completes our maneuver there, and at that point we would just continue on flying along our path here. So let's talk about some of the common errors during this maneuver, and I didn't talk about it too much, but while we're flying this maneuver, especially when we're starting out on our turns from 0 to 45, it's going to require more right rudder as we get that increased pitch attitude, and as we slow down the airplane there, we're going to have a little bit of adverse yaw, and while we're banking the airplane, remember we're continuously banking, so we're going to have some adverse yaw throughout this maneuver, so we're going to stay on the right rudder. Let's see here. So in the beginning we talked about planning, coordination, orientation. So remember the planning part of this, we know where our 45, our 90, our 135, and 180 points are. Coordination, we're gonna stay on the right rudder during this maneuver, to the right here, and then to the left. It'll be a little more right rudder as we come in. Since we're turning to the left, we'll have a little more of our left turning tendency, so a little more right rudder. So let's talk a little bit about common errors here, Dave. So as we come into this lazy 8, it's going to be important for us from the 0 to 45 degree turn there. We're going to want to make sure we have plenty of right rudder as we slow the airplane down, as we get our pitch pitch attitude up, and we're banking the airplane. We want to make sure we have plenty of right rudder. Now, as we come along to the 90-degree point and we go pitch down, we're actually going to want a little bit of left rudder or less right rudder. Okay, so we're pitching the nose down at this point from 90 to 135. That'll be our maximum pitch down, and we're also changing the bank angle. We're coming back to the left, and so we're going to want a little bit of left rudder coming down here. So that's part of the coordination of this. So part of the error of this maneuver is we're not getting enough right rudder as we go into it, and then we're not getting left rudder when we're coming down through the 90 into the 135 point. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing that could be a common error is not remembering that this is an outside visual maneuver. We need to make sure we know where our reference points are, so we got to choose good reference points. One thing that we can do, one thing that I say we can, one of the common errors that we could happen is when we go in this maneuver, it's possible that we might pitch up too high or not pitch up enough. It's going to be important, one way or the other. Let's talk about either way. So if we don't pitch up enough and we keep this nose down attitude, right, when we get to our 45 and then to our 90 degree point, we're still going to be going too fast. We're not going to be at our plus or minus, our plus 5 to 10 knots above stall speed. We're going to be too fast. And then the same thing. So if we're nose high and we have too much pitch up attitude, we're going to get our stall horn prior to getting to the 90 degree point, or we're not going to get to our plus 5 to 10 knots above stall speed. So we'll be getting to that stall horn too soon. So, and then as we come through the 90, we could, as we pitch down, so remember this is all about coordination, so you could do one of two things. You could not pitch down enough, and we might hold our altitude. And remember, we've got to come in at the same altitude from where we started. When we come back to the 180, we need to be at the same plus or minus 100 feet altitude. So if you don't get enough pitch down attitude, we're going to come in high when we come in through here, and we're probably going to come in fast. On the other side, we could also pitch down too much, and if we pitch down too much, we're going to be going way too fast, and we're going to blow through our altitude that we need to come in at our 180 degree point. So now we just finished talking about pitch. Now we're talking about banking errors during this maneuver. And so what happens is, if we go into this maneuver and we bank too much, we're going to come in too fast. So we're going to go through this maneuver too quickly. And so what's going to happen is we'll bank, and when we get to the 90 degree point, we're going to be fast. We're not going to be within our plus 5 to 10 knots above stall speed. And then as we continue through the maneuver, we're going to come in at our 180 degree point too fast. On the other side, if we don't bank enough and we're not getting to our 15 and 30 degrees of bank here, we're extending the time of this maneuver. And at that point, we're going to be too slow when we get to the 90 degree point. And we're going to be too slow coming into our 180 degree point. Okay? So it's going to be important for us during this maneuver to stay coordinated, make sure we're hitting 15 degrees, approximately 15 degrees, approximately 30 degrees when we come through here at the 90, and the 135 will be at 15 degrees, and then wings level at 180. But let's talk about the standards for this maneuver. So when we're coming in at our 180 degree point, we want to be plus or minus 100 feet from our starting altitude. We want to be plus or minus 10 knots from our entry speed, and plus or minus 10 degrees to our 180 degree point. Any questions, Dave?
Nope, that's perfect.
That's good. Perfect.
Okay, good. Done.
Okay.
That's a good job.